Hello, and welcome back to my channel. So as we have talked about so many times here in this channel, as much as record labels truly can help an artist's career, they don't always do what they're supposed to or even what they say that they'll do. Sometimes they take advantage of their artists through unfair contracts or just otherwise unfair practices. So in today's video, we are going to talk about cases where artists got unfair deals from their labels or otherwise felt mistreated by their labels and fought against them. But before we get into today's topic, let's go ahead and take a word from today's amazing sponsor, Galaxy Lamps. So my absolute new favorite thing in my room right now is my Galaxy projector. I know you guys are wave tapestry stands. For me, it is the Galaxy projector. I'm not a huge fan of harsh white overhead lighting, but I really do love sort of mood lighting and colored lighting. And the Galaxy projector will turn your room into a colorful universe with this amazing cosmic vibe. For me, it's perfect for when I'm just winding down and catching up on some TVs, but it would also be amazing if you're having friends over for a movie night or, honestly, just a movie night by yourself, or even just entertaining and having sort of a party. It's really good for the ambiance in a room. It's also perfect for gaming, or for some of you who create content at night, which I know some of you do because I watch you, or otherwise, it's just like the perfect backdrop for taking a picture or a video. I, of course, have had colored LED lamps before in the past, but with the Galaxy lamp, I'm really in love with just the whole galaxy atmosphere and the stars, and the fact that you can actually fully customize the colors of the lighting. And you can conveniently do this through the app on your phone, which is amazing because of the color wheel. You're not just stuck to the options on a remote, and it's also even better because you're not like looking around for the remote. You don't have to get up and get the remote if you're in bed, so it's just really convenient and it's already in your hand or at your bedside. And if you do like to sleep with some light in the room or feel like you're sleeping amongst the stars, you can definitely dim the lights on the Galaxy projector. That way the light is not shining in your face all night. And if that's not your thing, you can also set a timer through the app. That way it's not on all night, running up your electricity bill. The Galaxy lamp is also compatible with Alexa and Google Assistant. To get 15% off of your Galaxy lamp, go to galaxylamps.co/naomi cannibal and use Naomi Cannibal and go ahead and create your own little vibe and your own little universe. Huge thanks to Galaxy Lamps for sponsoring today's video, and now let's go ahead and get back into it. As one of the best-selling girl groups of all time, it seemed only fair TLC would be one of the highest paid acts in music, or at least be paid enough to enjoy the fruits of their labor. But as many know, and as they've said themselves, that was far from the truth. In the early to mid-90s, it seemed like TLC was on top of the world. The group had just released their sophomore album, Crazy Sexy Cool, in November of 1994, and it contained some of their biggest hits to date, like Creepin' Waterfalls. TLC named Crazy Sexy Cool before they even started working on it, saying they knew the record would be a success, and they were definitely correct. The album peaked at number 3 on the Hot 200 and spent the next 2 years on the charts. Additionally, Crazy Sexy Cool won TLC 2 Grammys and is still the best-selling album by a girl group in the US. Currently, it's also still the only girl group record to be certified diamond by the RIAA. Before their 1992 debut album, Ooh on the TLC Tip, the group signed to LA Reid and Babyface's LaFace Records with a distribution deal through Arista Records. TLC was managed by Pebbitone, a company owned by Perry Reid, then known as Pebbles as it was her stage name when she herself was an artist. At the time, Pebbles was married to LA Reid. TLC's contracts with LaFace and Pebbitone were signed back in 1991 when the members were between the ages of 19 and 21. The recording contract stated the group would receive about 56 cents for every album sold, and even less for singles, which of course would be split 3 ways. The numbers really broke down to the group making about 20 cents per album, still split 3 ways. By industry standards, this is a terrible contract. On top of that, TLC had to pay the label, producers, and managers, and had to make back the money the label invested before they could profit. While that is common in the industry, they were also being charged for extra expenses like travel, food, and clothing. This, combined with their funds allegedly being mishandled, resulted in TLC being basically broke despite selling millions of albums worldwide. Aside from being in an unfair contract with their label, TLC signed a pretty one-sided contract with Pebbles as well. The contract gave her ownership of the TLC name and what was called an unfair share of their earnings. In addition, only Pebbles attorneys were used to negotiate the management deal, as TLC didn't have any attorneys, meaning Pebbles attorneys were to negotiate for TLC as well. Later, the girls would say that they were never even given a copy of the contract they signed. As TLC became more successful, meaning more money was being spent on appearances and promotions, their debt only increased. Fed up and wanting to know who had their money, the group then went to Clive Davis, then head of Arista Records, and practically held him hostage.
Why did TLC hold Arista hostage? The record company?
The record company, Clive Davis. We held them hostage like guns, the whole shebang. Yeah, it was like that.
Because, wait a minute. I want to make sure we understand.
Yes.
Guns?
Yes, guns.
With bullets?
With bullets.
Come on, give me the story,
I'm going to tell
baby.
you because TLC had generated on Crazy Sexy Cool $75 million, and they gave us $50,000 a piece. So I was like, what the hell? So, of course, Lisa was the ringleader.
Like, we need to go get our money. I need to know where my MF and money's at.
So, you know, she was locked up in the diversion center for burning down the house. And she was just like, okay, we gonna get LaFace and them girls I was locked up with. We gonna drive up there. We gonna take the guns. And then we had this limo driver.
Wait, she just got out of jail?
Yes.
Okay.
And we had the limo driver. And he was the getaway car. So we went up there and held everybody hostage. And Puffy was the one that snitched us out. Yo, B, yo, your girl's up here mad bugging, yo. And I was like, oh, Puff, why you gonna snitch us out, dog? But he called it. Yeah, because we kicked him out of the meeting.
Well, wait a minute. Puffy, mind your damn business.
Adjusted for inflation, that $50,000 would be a little over $98,000 today for one of the best-selling acts in music at the time. Eventually, the NYPD had to intervene in order to end the standoff. By 1995, TLC was asking to renegotiate their contract with LaFace and dissolve their contract with Pebbitone entirely. LaFace refused, so in July of that year, TLC filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, citing over $3 million in debt. They also sued Pebbles in an attempt to get out of their contract with Pebbitone, claiming their money was mismanaged. Pebbles denied this, stating she had been working to get the girls a better record deal with LaFace. She also claimed that Clive Davis threw her under the bus. After their 1996 Grammy wins, Chili let it be known at the photo call that at the height of TLC's massive success, the group was still as broke as can be.
Well, I'll put it to you this way. We are the biggest selling female group ever. 10 million albums worldwide. We have worked very hard. We have been in this business for 5 years. And we are broke as broke can be. And we're not like trying to be a sad story. If that was the case, we would have been on everybody's talk show talking about how broke we are. We haven't done that. I know it's hard to believe because we've sold so many albums, but it is possible. That's the deal here. So, and we're not happy at all. But for real, tonight, this is all we wanted. We wanted to win a Grammy, at least one, and we won 2. And that proves that we are the jam.
By November of 1996, TLC settled their contract dispute, having successfully renegotiated with LaFace. The agreement required LaFace pay the group a $10 million advance, which would be paid back with royalties from their future albums. Instead of a 7% royalty rate, TLC would now be paid 18%. Pebbles agreed to let them out of their contract with Pebbitone as long as she was entitled to a portion of the group's royalties. TLC also bought the rights to their name from Pebbles, having to pay her $3 million or $1 million for each letter. This left TLC still in their contract with LaFace, who they now owed an additional 2 albums on top of the 6 that they owed. The contract disputes between TLC and Pebbles seemed to be a thing in the past until TLC's biopic aired on VH1 in 2013. T-Boz and Chili were 2 of the producers on the film. Pebbles filed a $40 million defamation suit against Viacom over the biopic, claiming it portrayed her as a conniving and dishonest businesswoman who hoodwinked 3 innocent girls and exploited their talent for her own personal gain. Years later in 2020, a settlement was reached for an undisclosed amount. Back in 1993, Prince got in such a heated dispute with Warner that it resulted in an unofficial name change. Prince signed to Warner Records in 1977 and had since become a household name due to his eclectic fashion and of course his music that spanned from funk to pop to rock to R&B. In the early 90s, Prince signed a new deal with his label, but eventually found himself in conflict with them over the pace at which he could release music. Prince wanted to put out his music nearly as soon as it was ready or whenever he was in the mood to. Warner, on the other hand, didn't want to oversaturate the market with Prince's music out of fear that fans would tire of him. At the time, Prince had over 500 unreleased songs that he was waiting to release. Because Warner wouldn't allow Prince to put out his music, he began to perform with the word slave on his cheek as he felt his contract had relegated him to label property. Prince said about this, "Warner Brothers took the name, trademarked it, and used it as the main marketing tool to promote all of the music I wrote. The company owns the name Prince and all related music marketed under Prince. I became merely a pawn used to produce more money for Warner Brothers." As a result of the conflict, Prince changed his name to a symbol. More accurately, he changed his stage name, not his legal name. The symbol, which he called a love symbol, is a combination of the astrological symbols for man and woman. Prince said in a press release, "It's an unpronounceable symbol whose meaning has not been identified. It's all about thinking in new ways, tuning into a new frequency." Prince used this symbol on the cover and for the title of his 14th studio album, the Love Symbol album. He also made his team and others refer to him using the name, with his lawyer going as far as having to figure out how to create a font for it in his computer. Eventually, Warner even had to send out floppy disks to several media outlets that contained the love symbol because it couldn't be created on regular keyboards. Though this was a creative act of rebellion, Prince's unofficial name change didn't nullify any of his contractual obligations with Warner. But if Prince couldn't get out of his contract, his statement at least did reclaim some of his agency and also created a burden for Warner, hopefully similar at least in some ways to the way Prince felt at not being able to release his own music. Record sales did plummet as a result of the name change, resulting in a second name change to the artist formerly known as Prince. Though Prince agreed with Warner to do this, it didn't really remedy his feelings of being restricted by the label. Prince wouldn't publicly use his real name again until 2000, when he was finally released from the contract with Warner.
On December 31st, 1999, my publishing contract with Warner Chappell expired, thus emancipating the name I was given before birth, Prince, from all long-term restrictive documents. I will now go back to using my name instead of the symbol I adopted as a means to free myself from all undesirable relationships. It was interesting the other day. A friend of mine said, "So what should I call you now?" And I said, "You can call me Prince." And it just felt good to say that again because I hadn't so long. So I'm really curious to see what happens next.
And what else did? Oh, no contracts. That's like you don't do contracts at all now, right? That's a new thing?
Well,
how about when you rent a car?
I don't drive.
Oh, you don't drive?
No, I don't drive.
Well, explain what it's about, though, because I know...
Well, you know, record contracts are kind of weird because it's like, you know, when you mortgage a house, you get to keep the house, you know, but a record contract is like, you know, you pay for the house and they keep the house.
Right.
So the master recordings and things like that, that's our future. That's how we take care of it.
I admire you for this, and I know a lot of artists, because we talked earlier a little seriously about this, about how many artists have been screwed over the years because they gave away all the rights to their stuff, and somebody else is making money off. And you don't do that, and I think you paid a price for it, but ultimately you will be the winner in the situation, right?
So
because now you sell your stuff.
It's pretty common knowledge at this point that Michael Jackson publicly detested Sony Music. He often spoke about how the music industry, and specifically label heads at Sony, mistreated black artists. Most of this occurred as a result of conflicts over the promotion of Michael's 2001 album Invincible. In 2002, Michael appeared at the headquarters of Reverend Al Sharpton's National Action Network in Harlem, where he expressed his grievances over his label.
Throughout the years, black artists have been taken advantage of. And it's time now that we have to put a stop to this incredible injustice. And like Mrs. Sharpton was saying, people from James Brown to Sammy Davis Jr., some of the real pioneers that inspired me to be the entertainer that I am. These artists are always on tour because if they stopped touring, they would totally go broken. The record companies really do conspire against their artists. They steal, they cheat, they do whatever they can, especially the black artists. Sony Tommy Mottola. Tommy Mottola is the president of the record division. He is a mean, he's a racist, and he's very devilish. Yes. So I need your support, not just for me. When you fight for me, you're fighting for all black people. Dead and alive.
While Sharpton didn't personally consider Mottola a racist, he did still sympathize with and support Michael's fight for artists' rights. However, aligning himself with Michael after the comments he made against Mottola did make other execs and industry people, especially those at Sony, pretty upset. In response, Sony released a statement saying, "We were deeply offended by the outrageous comments Mr. Jackson made during his publicity stunt this past Saturday. The executive he attacked is widely supported and respected in every part of the music industry and has championed both Mr. Jackson's career and the careers of many other superstars. In launching an unfounded and unwarranted attack on this man's reputation, Mr. Jackson has committed a serious abuse of power that comes with celebrity. The bizarre, false statements Mr. Jackson made on Saturday make it clear that his difficulties lie elsewhere than with the marketing and promotion of Invincible." Michael later claimed at Al Sharpton's Music Industry Summit that ever since he got as famous as the Beatles, the industry put a target on his back and started a smear campaign against him. Michael felt that Sony didn't promote Invincible out of an attempt to sabotage its performance. Though the album topped the charts in other countries, it didn't in the US and underperformed compared to his previous albums. Michael also claimed Sony wanted him to pay them money for the advances, production, and promotion costs regarding Invincible. According to the label, the album cost $30 million to make and $25 million to promote. If those numbers are accurate, Invincible is the most expensive album to ever be made. Michael did 2 televised concerts to promote Invincible, but no Invincible tour followed. Some sources have said Michael refused to tour in protest of Sony. There were also rumors a tour had been planned but was canceled due to 9/11. And then still, there was speculation that Michael didn't tour for personal reasons, because Michael has been open about his distaste for touring.
Well, can we just do it again without the negative saying that you don't like the tour? Just 'cause
I don't like it though.
I know, but see,
I go through hell.
What is it setting up though? I don't understand.
I go through hell touring. Okay, then I'll make it positive then.
Yeah, it's just
well, you know the truth.
Yeah.
Okay.
And action, Michael.
I love to tour.
There's been speculation that Sony didn't promote Invincible because they caught wind that Michael wanted to leave the label. Initially, when he wanted to renegotiate his contract, Michael was denied receiving his masters in the next 3 years, which would have been around 2005-2006. His current contract would grant him his masters after 7 years, which would have been around 2009-2010. Owning his masters completely would mean Michael would no longer have to split royalties with Sony. However, Michael preferred to leave the label rather than give them more of his unreleased music. Michael left Sony in 2002, at which point he still owed them 2 more albums of original material. Since he hadn't fulfilled his contract, Sony still reserved the rights to repackage Michael's catalog into new albums. Michael, however, had claimed that he only owed Sony 1 more album, which was just a box set of his old music with 2 new songs. Sony also allegedly wanted to buy Michael's half of the music publishing company Sony ATV. There were rumors that they had pressured Michael to give up his half as a result of the massive debt he was in, some of which was allegedly to Sony. According to the Washington Post, Michael had to put up his share of Sony ATV as collateral for Sony to help him get loans. Sony, however, has denied this. I did, though, come across a theory speculating that the figures Sony gave for the money spent promoting Invincible were fabricated, and the album was sabotaged to all but force Michael to sell his half of Sony ATV. Reportedly, Michael was also of the belief that Sony was conspiring against him to get his share of Sony ATV, so his problems with Sony weren't just about Invincible. Back in 1985, Michael had purchased the publishing company ATV, which owned the rights to several songs, including most of the Beatles' catalog. Ironically, Paul McCartney was the one who encouraged Michael to own the rights to his publishing and that of other hit songs, because that's truly where the money is in the music industry. Paul would later hold a grudge against Jackson for not only buying the rights to the Beatles songs, but also licensing them out to commercials. In 1995, Jackson sold half of ATV to Sony in an attempt to get out of debt, which created Sony ATV. The ownership of much of Michael's music under his company Mindjack Music was kept out of the deal. The publishing to this music was administered by Warner Chappell Publishing until 2012, and Sony ATV took over the administration from that point. In 2003, it was reported that despite the fact that Tommy Mottola had stepped down from his position at Sony, Michael was still done with the label. At that time, it was reported that Michael wasn't able to receive his masters for 5 to 8 years. Yet, allegedly, he would have likely still been indebted to Sony aside from his personal debt at that time. When he passed in 2009, it was estimated that Michael was between $400 and $5 million in debt. In 2016, Sony bought Michael's half of Sony ATV, paying his estate $750 million for it. Today, Sony ATV is known as Sony Music Publishing and is the world's largest music publishing company. As of February of this year, Michael's estate is in talks with Sony to sell half of Michael's catalog. The deal could be worth up to $900 million and could potentially be the largest in the history of music catalog sales. In 2004, 13-year-old JoJo released her debut single, Leave, Get Out, to much commercial success and acclaim. The song peaked at number 12 on the Hot 100, but since it topped the Billboard Pop Songs chart, JoJo became the youngest female soloist to have a number 1 single in the US. The single was included on JoJo's self-titled debut record, which debuted at number 4 in the Hot 200. In 2006, JoJo released her sophomore album, The High Road, which peaked at number 3. The album contained popular songs like the title track as well as Too Little Too Late. The single actually broke Mariah Carey's record for jumping the most spots in the Hot 100, as it went from number 66 to number 3 in just a week. After 2 successful albums, JoJo seemed poised to be one of the 2000s biggest teen pop stars. After all, Blackground signed her specifically in an effort to shift their focus on more pop acts and have a bigger presence in that market. Yet, conflicts with Blackground and its imprint, Da Family Entertainment, halted JoJo's momentum. In the years following The High Road, JoJo talked about working on her 3rd album, which wouldn't come for another decade. When Da Family lost their distribution deal in 2009, JoJo had no way of releasing music, yet her label wouldn't let her out of her contract. And JoJo was stuck, as she had signed the rights to her voice over to Blackground. So even though she really wanted to, she still was not legally able to make any music elsewhere. During years of legal battles, her existing music was unavailable to stream pretty much the entire time. That same year, JoJo sued Blackground and Da Family for the first time over their lack of distribution, making it impossible for her to put out music. The lawsuit was eventually dropped when Blackground secured a distribution deal with Interscope. The following year, in 2010, JoJo released her first mixtape, and in 2011, she started again on her 3rd album, which was the unreleased Jumping Trains. JoJo changed creative direction on Jumping Trains a couple times and was also busy with her acting career. By 2012, before she was able to release the album, Blackground actually lost their distribution deal with Interscope. Instead of an album, JoJo released the mixtape Agape in 2012. JoJo continued trying to release her album, which she'd done several times over the last 6 years, but she claimed every time she tried, she'd get no response. JoJo said, "I've recorded about 3 incarnations of this 3rd album. We've chosen the track listing, we've done multiple album photo shoots, chosen the cover, chosen the credits, everything." Years later, JoJo opened up and said she felt her label didn't want to release her music because of her looks. She said about this,
"I don't think that this is about my health. I think that you want me to be really skinny." And he's like, "No, I wouldn't say that, blah, blah, blah." But I ended up getting put with a nutritionist that had me on a 500 calorie a day diet, and I was on these injections that make you have no appetite. I was like, let me see how skinny I can get, because maybe then they'll put out an album. Maybe I'm just so disgusting that no one wants to see me in a video and that they can't even look at me. That's really what I thought.
Her ongoing career limbo eventually inspired the Free JoJo hashtag and social media movement. In July of 2013, JoJo sued Blackground and Da Family again, claiming her contract had been up 2 years prior. According to New York law, minors couldn't sign contracts that lasted longer than 7 years. JoJo signed to her label in 2004, meaning that by 2011, those 7 years were up. By December of 2013, JoJo's legal team reached a settlement with her labels, and she was finally out of her contracts. Soon after, JoJo signed with Atlantic Records. 2 years later, in 2016, JoJo finally released her 3rd album, Mad Love, which contains the absolute bop, fuck apologies. Pause the video and go listen to it right now. In 2018, JoJo re-recorded her 2 albums with Blackground, making them available for streaming. She had considered trying to buy her masters, but her lawyer informed her she could just re-record the songs since her clause in her original contract had since expired. In order to re-record the songs, JoJo had to find them through sites like YouTube, and that's what she had her team use as a reference. She said it was odd as a 27-year-old hearing her 12-year-old self sing about things that she had been naive about then, but understood now. JoJo told Billboard re-recording her first 2 albums felt like her way of finally closing that traumatic chapter of her life. The original versions of JoJo's albums became available to stream in 2021. This resulted from a distribution deal Blackground, now called Blackground 2.0, made with Empire. Aside from JoJo's music, it made that of several other Blackground artists, including Aaliyah, Timbaland, and Toni Braxton, available. However, the recording artists or their estates wouldn't receive any profits from the streaming, something Aaliyah's estate and JoJo both criticized. But of course, if you stream the 2018 versions of JoJo's albums, she does profit from those. In early 2018, Megan Thee Stallion signed a record deal with 1501 Certified Entertainment. She initially signed a 1501 to relieve some of the financial burden from her mother, as well as the burden of management. Upon signing, Megan was paid an advance of $15,000. She later explained in an Instagram Live that as she learned more about the industry and received help from other labels, she realized 1501 wasn't treating her fairly.
I was young, I think I was like 20, and I didn't know everything that was in that contract. So when I got with Roc Nation, I got management, real management, I got real lawyers, and they was like, do you know that this is in your contract? And I was like, oh damn, that's crazy. No, I didn't know. So I'm not mad at 1501. I wasn't upset, because I'm thinking in my head, oh well, everybody cool, we all family, it's cool, it's nice. Let me just ask them to renegotiate my contract. Soon as I said I want to renegotiate my contract, everything went left. Like, it just all went bad, it all went left. So now they're telling the bitch that she can't drop no music.
Meg was unhappy with her management and felt the terms of her contract hadn't been thoroughly explained. In September of 2019, Megan signed with Roc Nation, though she would continue releasing music with 1501. Her primary reason for signing was to acquire new management, since her mother, who was her primary manager, had passed away. According to Carl Crawford, the CEO of 1501, Megan hadn't made 1501 aware that she was signing with Roc Nation, and he found out through Instagram. In March of 2020, Meg requested to renegotiate the terms of her contract with 1501, claiming the label blocked her from releasing new music. She said Roc Nation's managers and lawyers had pointed out flaws in her original contract with 1501 that she hadn't been aware of at the time of signing. Meg claimed 1501's reluctance to renegotiate her contract was due to greed and control. Crawford, on the other hand, claimed Meg had started withholding money from 1501 as soon as she'd signed with Roc Nation.
A lot of times, and I think I heard you say this before, a lot of times it be situations going on that probably hasn't even gotten to you, that you don't even know. And
like
then
what?
Like, for example, the Megan Thee Stallion situation, I think she had put something publicly out there and like, yeah, I didn't even know this.
Yeah. Oh, you mean like when she went viral? I
Yeah.
mean, when she went live and started saying, yeah, I'm seeing it. I'm just like, yo, they like, yo, she blasting you on the thing. She talking about 1501 and all. I'm like, damn. You know, yeah, because we stopped the music for the first time. That's the only thing she care about is the music and the internet. You know what I'm saying?
What made you stop the music?
Because, you know, we in a legal situation.
And that moment, 3 years ago,
and they was just ignoring all our letters that we writing back to them. They was just not knowing it. We trying to get this stuff settled. You know what I'm saying? But she's like listening to her people or whatever, and they just not knowing it. So of course we have to do something to get you to like try to get you to like work with us. But you know, you don't hear that. You don't hear nothing until that music is stopped.
Regardless, Meg filed a lawsuit against 1501 Entertainment. Her complaints included the label taking 60% of her recording earnings and having access to up to 30% of her earnings from live performances and merchandising. This deal is known as a 360 deal and is one of the most common contracts for newer artists to sign. I am planning on doing a 360 deal video and also talk about some cases where they worked out for the artist at some point, so do let me know if you're interested in that. In her lawsuit, Meg also claimed 1501 underpaid her and had been vague when it came to verifying she'd been paid the right amount. Amidst her lawsuit, Meg was able to gain a temporary restraining order from 1501, allowing her to release her EP, Sugar. Over the years, there have been several disputes between Meg and 1501 as to what counts as an album. According to the terms of her contract, a body of work with a runtime of 45 minutes or longer would constitute an album. Meg's releases up to that point, Tina Snow, Fever, and Sugar, were all less than 45 minutes. In August of 2021, Meg obtained another temporary restraining order to release the Butter remix with BTS. 1501 had tried to prevent the release because they doubted the collaboration would be good for her career. This was despite Butter having been #1 for several weeks at the time, and BTS being one of the world's most successful musical acts. 1501 agreed to allow Meg to do the remix, but only if they received a fee of $100,000. Megan's debut album, Good News, was her first body of work to count towards her deal with 1501. She filed another lawsuit after her next project, Something for the Hotties, wasn't counted as her second album, despite it being 45 minutes and 2 seconds long. 1501 considered Something for the Hotties a mixtape, since some of the songs weren't as polished as regular studio recordings and they weren't wholly original. Something for the Hotties contained only 29 minutes of new material, and Megan hadn't had the project pre-approved with the label. In March of last year, 1501 hit Meg with a countersuit. They claimed Something for the Hotties didn't count as an album and that Meg still owed the label 2 more. An attorney for 1501 claimed that Megan's contract stated each album needed to contain 12 studio recordings of new material and that they needed to be approved by the label. 1501's attorneys also claimed that Megan signed a settlement in March of 2021, agreeing again to this deal. In August of 2022, Meg released her sophomore album, Traumazine. That same month, she amended her complaint against her label, now requesting $1 million in relief. As of November of 2022, she was granted another restraining order against 1501 Certified Entertainment after they allegedly attempted to block her from performing her songs at the AMAs. In December of 2022, a judge ruled that Meg's case against 1501 could proceed to trial. Most recently, in April of 2023, Meg filed another motion claiming 1501 was draining money and that there was only $10,000 in their primary account despite all of the money she'd made the label. She's claiming all of the label execs are getting paid while she isn't, and that the label might be hiding money to avoid paying her properly. Because of this, Meg is asking for a third party to manage 1501's finances in the meantime. But yes, as always, be sure to let me know your thoughts on some of the cases I've covered today. And also, side note, if you've seen the TLC documentary, let me know if it's any good, because I already started working on this video and then saw advertisement for that, and I was like, what a coincidence. I haven't seen it yet, but if you've seen it, let me know your thoughts. And also, again, let me know if you want to see the 360 deal video, because I'm kind of surprised that that's something that I haven't talked about yet on this channel. So let me know if you want me to talk about it. As always, thank you so very much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so that you can stick around for more. Also, make sure you follow me on Twitter if you want to keep up with me there. And if you'd like to become a channel member, the link is in the video description. Again, thank you so very much for watching. I love you so very much, and I'll see you so very soon. Bye-bye.